you. Just a little bit down. That's good. Perfect. Thank you. So September of 1982, I was studying abroad in Nice, France, on the Mediterranean Sea, and I was determined to experience as much Frenchness as I could in 6 months. But I had a dilemma. Will I, or won't I, go topless on the beach? Now, the French have a different attitude toward the female body than we Americans. Picture an ad for bath soap. In America, we see a woman, she's looking demurely over her shoulder, caressing her shoulder blade. She smiles sweetly at the camera and says, "I love this soap." Now, the French ad's a little bit different. Cut to a woman in the shower. She smiles sweetly at the camera, and she says, "I love this soap." So I wasn't sure what I was going to do. Could I out-French the French in this domain? But I went ahead and I bought a little red bikini, my first. And a month went by, and it wasn't until the weather began to turn cold that I realized it's now or never. So one day I waded out into the deep water up to my chin, waited quite a while away from all the other swimmers, of course, and finally I reached around, I unclasped my bikini top, and I gripped it firmly in one hand for fear of losing it, and I began to sort of swim around in a little circle. And every time another swimmer would come within 20 feet of me, I'd sort of duck down back in the water. Then they'd go away, and I'd swim around some more and duck down some more. And at a certain point, I realized I'm going to need to leave the water at some point. I'm going to have to walk up through that surf, cross rocky pebbled beach, past hundreds of beachgoers from all over the world, topless, to get to my towel. But I had to go out at some point, so I start walking up the beach. And as the water becomes more shallow, I drop to my knees. And as it becomes shallower still, I'm practically crawling up the beach. So when I finally get to the surf's edge, I stand up and I try to look as confident as possible. Yes, I do this all the time. Somehow I made it back to my towel. Now my companion that day was a good Catholic boy from Philadelphia, and he was laying on his towel on his side, thankfully looking away from the sea. So I sit down on my towel, lay down on my towel, and I try to uncurl myself from the fetal position that I'm in. I try to relax, I lay on my back and let the sun evaporate the water from my skin. Soon after this, my companion decides to roll in my direction. As he rolled over and his eyes came level with my sunny side up presentation, I saw his eyes widen with fear and panic, and he threw himself back in the other direction. So a few minutes later, I ended my topless experiment. Now, when I was in France, I tried snails. I learned to drink cheap red French table wine. I even took a toke of a Gauloise, and I went topless at the beach. Now, I'd like to tell you that I enjoyed it, but I really didn't. I was just too embarrassed and self-conscious. But here I was, 3 years later, living once again on the beach in France, in a little resort town, and on the beach I was surrounded by French families. And every girl and woman on that beach, from the age of 4 to the age of 84, was topless. So I thought to myself, maybe I should give this another try. I mean, they look like they're having fun. So I strode to my towel, I unclasped my bikini top, and I left it there. And then I walked to a stone wall, and I smiled at the toddler, and I smiled at the octogenarians, and then I dove into that limpid green water. And it was wonderful. I could feel little warm currents of water tickling my skin, my breasts, my arms, my back, and I swam, I floated on my back, I dove down in the water, and I kicked my feet like a dolphin, and I sort of exploded through the water, and I just felt, I've never felt so free in my life. And gone was the embarrassment, and gone was the self-consciousness. Now, I'd like to tell you that I've gone topless since, but I have not. I haven't really had the occasion. However, I'm going to bet you that once my husband hears this story, he might well book our next trip for the sunny southern shores of France. Good luck.